I am here to show you just one super fast way to make soup. Fall is here and soup is just one of those things. It's filling, it's warm, we can make it really healthy and fit our plans, and we get volume with it. So soup is kind of that win-win type of meal. So I tend to do soups more, fall, winter, and then when it's summer, I kind of switch that over to salads because it's kind of the same concept. You can add a lot of volume with lettuce. So for soup, one of the things, which I forgot to grab, I always try to be ready for these videos, and then I always forget something. But I use broth. Broth is free to use. This is very low calorie. This is 10 calories per cup. Pretty low. You can get low sodium broth if you want low sodium broth, whatever. You do you. Chicken broth, vegetable broth, beef broth, which I have beef broth in my pantry, and that's what I'm gonna end up using here because I'm using beef. But if I was using chicken or pork, I would use the chicken broth. Sometimes I do veggie broth. So to make a soup on plan, like my own personal serving of soup, this is like the perfect thing for me to make for lunch. I'm not making a meal for anybody else but myself. So it's really easy. Grab the food scale because we know the food scale is important. I grab just a little saucepan, put my pan on my scale, turn the scale on, it zeroes out. Now, I am using ground beef. Now my ground beef is already prepped and ready. It's plain. I didn't season this. Sometimes I season it, but sometimes I don't, because then I'm like, if I want tacos, I can just throw some on the stove with some Mexican seasoning in it and make tacos. If I want to use it to make like a Korean beef and broccoli meal, then I can season it to do that. So sometimes it's really good to leave it just plain. So this beef is completely plain, no seasoning, not even salt in this one. And I'm going to weigh out my portion, and the dog is running out here because he wants a little something too. He'll get something, don't worry. Now, fibrous veggies are free to have. Add whatever you want for veggies. Right now I have coleslaw or cabbage. So I'm gonna add in some cabbage. Don't have to measure because your vegetables, eat them up. Just eat them up. Fiber. I'm gonna add in some spinach. Okay, you guys, I do not like mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms, but I'm trying. And every week I buy mushrooms and eat them. So right now, what I'm trying to do, I'm learning to eat them like they're just mixed in with other things. I can't eat them plain. So I'm going to even add in some mushrooms. Like, I don't have to like them. This is a choice, right? So I'm sitting here making a big deal. Like, it's getting better, trust me. But I want to be able to like them because I just want to be able to have the variety. But I also want, like, when I'm at somebody's house and there's mushrooms in something or on something, I don't want to be like the 2-year-old kid picking off the frickin' mushrooms. Okay, so I'm just putting on the big girl panties. I'm working on it. Okay, now I could add in whatever vegetable I want. Then we have usually at your meal, you're also going to have a carbohydrate. I have rice that's already prepped and ready to go. So I can just measure out my rice and put my rice in the pot. And so when I do that, I've got all my stuff in the pot. I'm going to add in broth. I'm just gonna put it on the stove and let it boil. Also, I'm gonna add seasonings in. Now, one seasoning I love to have is smoked paprika, especially if it's like a sirloin and sweet potato mix that I have in here. Oh, super good. I'll add in probably some Lawry's salt and just some random things. Whatever I'm feeling, I'm going to add it into this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the rest of this thrown together, throw it on the stove, and then I'm gonna show you a little trick on how to make your soup creamy if you like to have a creamy base rather than broth base. Okay, so if you wanna have a creamy base soup, a couple tricks to that. One, use cream cheese. If you have a fat source to use at your meal, use a cream cheese. You can like have fun with it. Have a flavored one, you can have a regular one, you can have a reduced fat one, whatever you want to fit your calories. So a regular cream cheese, this is 80 calories per serving, and a serving is 31 grams. So, you know, this is a great fat source to use. As you see, I weighed my spoon and then I dug it in the cream cheese. That is a lot of cream cheese. That's a serving right there. 31 grams. So that's one way to make a creamy base. If you don't have a fat source at your meal, you can use a non-fat plain Greek yogurt to make kind of a creamy base in your soup as well. If you don't want to do that, if you have a carbohydrate at your meal, which most meals do, use like a white potato or a sweet potato. Have it already prepped, ready in your fridge. So basically all you're doing is heating it up, but use half the potatoes for the soup and then the other half, puree them in a food processor with a little bit of broth, and that'll kind of give it a creamy base. You can also do that with white beans. So if you're using beans for your carbohydrate, process up some of those beans. Make them, you know, if you puree them, it'll give you that creamy soup base. So I've got the soup going behind me. I ended up adding in smoked paprika, chili powder, garlic salt, and onion powder. So I will show you the finished product when it is all done, when I get the cream cheese added, and you'll be able to see that. It is. I gotta be careful because that's a lot, and that's a lot of volume. So that is with the cream cheese mixed in. You could totally make this a fun fall flavor, adding in like the nutmegs and cinnamons and spices like that. Super delicious. Another thing is using squash as like a butternut squash as your carb, keeping some of it, diced up, or doing half and half. Do half sweet potato, half butternut squash. Have the sweet potato diced up, ready to heat up in your soup, and then using the squash to puree it, and that'll give you a nice really thick base. You can also do half and half. Maybe you have, some fruit. You could use pumpkin as part of the base, like a squash and pumpkin soup. That's one of my favorites. Saute up some onions, celery. Sometimes I use carrots, sometimes not. And then using pureed butternut squash with pumpkin, like the canned pumpkin, as the soup base. Add in some chicken, add in some seasonings. It is so delicious. So I will be sure to make that one for you guys and show you how easy that one is as well. But for now, I just wanted to give you the idea that these are what I call kind of garbage meals, where I take I take everything that's in my scheduled meal and just throw it in a pan with some broth. All it takes is a little creativity in the seasonings that you want to use, and you totally have a meal on plan. It was so simple. If you just have your proteins and your carbs already prepped, the time on the stove, I mean, this was like a 5-minute meal. So easy. So let me know if you have any questions.